Radio.
Believe it.
Hi, this is RB with Carib Voice Radio. We are jumping into a very special conversation on Straight Talk and Motivation today with the Manxchange, the Man U script ready to lead, thrive, and win. A blueprint for men. I think this is a very important book, especially for men of faith, vision, and curiosity about becoming the best selves. And I think that if you carry a Bible, you should also have this by your bedside as a partnership with your leveraging your understanding. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You know,
Sure.
we as men, and I love it, we as men are so misunderstood. And I reviewed the basics on this book. And I look forward to doing more of these interviews with you guys, by the way, because I feel that this is a never-ending story.
Yes, sir.
And when I was reading it, I could feel the spirituality in the mix of my own life, which corresponds to module 2 in my workshop. And I said, the island that I am from is facing some real tragedy moments the last 6 months, about 35 murders. And that's Barbados. And I don't say that to dissuade anyone from visiting because the world is filled with chaos. But I believe that as men, we need a blueprint like what you wrote. And I want this book to be like what you said. And this is not a promotion. This is just a truism of being in schools, colleges, universities. But let's get into the churches first, because a lot of us as men need to have this understanding of self-worth and value. So
Yes.
welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about this collaboration. How did this book get started? What was the Genesis
nature of
project,
it.
if you will?
Yes, I'll speak. The nature of the book is really what you just spoke on, is that I felt throughout my years, and I'm 62 years old now. And so I've had a few life experiences, and I've met friends, met strangers. I've worked with youth. I've worked with adults in different capacities. And I felt that as you talk about things we hear, if we are stuck on social media and not dogging social media nor the news, is that a lot of things is bad news and tragedy. And for men, this crosses all men of any ethnicity. A lot of times it's this burden that's put. I don't want to take it a burden, but there's a great demand that we have this excellence and perfection in everything, but how do we get it? And then when we don't get it, we're reminded very much so by friends and peers and others, but no one could tell us what we need to do to get better. They tell you just need to do better, you need to do more. And it becomes a pressure as a male. If you're trying to be the best man you can on that, this is an impossible feat. Well, it is probably impossible by ourselves, but if we collectively come together and be teamwork is the word. But the thing is that in teamwork, still everyone has a function to do and be accountable and responsible for. So I felt like if we could get groups of men together and we share some of our experiences in life, that way we can listen, we can learn, we can teach, and then we can also build confidence in one another and for ourselves that what we're doing, whatever it is that you're doing, and you're moving in a positive direction, that there's someone there. You do have a security net, but you have to network that, and the network gives us our net worth, sir, in what we're doing, because we can only do what we can imagine. And if your imagination has been filtered to the point where you don't even dream or wish anything anymore, then you're really no good. You're no good for the purpose of what you were created for, because we're created in the image of Christ. And I don't want to make your platform about church. So we have the abilities and capabilities within us, but sometimes you need to prime the pump, and we all need to be pumped up sometimes. So we're just priming each other's pumps, so to say, that we can come together and then we can pour out of ourself into others. At least we can pour out ourselves where others have access to what we have and can continue to go further. Everything needs to be watered. So the Man Exchange, this book, we're just putting our script out. This is how life is life with us, and this is how we have overcome challenges. This is how we have taken a defeat and turned it into another opportunity. So
No,
I was fortunate enough to have a
well,
group of men who said, "Hey, we like that," and they want to share their stories as well.
yes. Now, don't apologize about the church part of it because we are the original blueprint of what we call church. Going into the building each and every day across the globe is not necessarily what we call church, but congregation. So
Yes.
we, as the individual man, or what I would call the Adam model for the blueprint, the Adamic age where we are right now, we can always talk openly and straight with each other. That is why the title of this show is Straight Talk and Motivation. We apologize
Yes.
for no one in no way because when you start conversations, it's a never-ending story. Some will, some won't, so what? Some will help you, some will be against you. That's your force field analysis. And you need to be able to manage it in your daily life. Now, in the introduction here, you're saying that some stories are spoken openly. Truth. Others are carried quietly for years, tucked away beneath responsibilities, expectations, success, disappointments, and lessons learned along the way. Yet, within every story lies wisdom that can help another man find his footing, strengthen his character, or avoid a painful detour. Tell us more about that, Mr. Fields.
Well, for me, thank you again for this opportunity to be able to share with your audience and with the men here today. This book has caused triumph for myself because I become vulnerable and I become honest about the various things that has occurred in my life. You're looking at someone who was in remedial classes for a long time and who weighed 2 pounds 10 ounces, and they said that I would have that educational problem of talking, of speaking, of doing various things. And in that, um, the mindset that I had was someone who was nothing. Um, Although I went to church, I didn't understand church. I knew it was a place that we gathered together and we would see family, we would see friends, and we had the word of God, but I didn't know how to apply the word of God to my situation, to my circumstance. And in that, I started learning how to grow in God. Not saying that I've just made it already and I'm good now. I'm still learning. And in that, when you have outside conditions coming in and telling you who you are, what you're about, and what you should do, instead of developing that relationship with God, who says that you're my son, and in that you're in my image that I told you about. And as a young man, I don't know all about that. I'm still learning how to be in this world. But yet the Bible says, be in it, but not of it. And man, I got caught up in it. And in that, I made some mistakes. It cost me loss in my life, the loss of who I am, what I'm to be about, responsibilities to other indications of what God says I am. And, growing up, it's just the challenges. And once you make that decision, though, and once you continue to have that faith, things do change and things do get better. But I'm not a man unto myself. It takes brotherhood because iron sharpens iron. And you see these great gentlemen right here. they're bringing a perspective that maybe we have seen but not haven't considered before. And Apostle can talk about this. Um, Coach can talk about it. I can talk about it. And Pat Moore, you can talk about it. But it's when we come together like this, we can make a fist and make impact. But
Yes.
if we keep that hand open, we can just do a slap, and that can go some way. But when we make a fist, though, that's a different thing there.
That's powerful, brother. I'm loving this blueprint already. Yeah. We're gonna jump over to you, Calvin. Give us your input in a moment. This that is the heart behind Man Exchange, the man you script ready to lead, thrive, and win. As the curator of this project, I wanted to create more than a book, and you have, from what I'm hearing. I wanted to create a conversation, which we are having now, a conversation between generations, a conversation between fathers and sons, a conversation among men who have walked different paths but have discovered many of the same truths about life, leadership, responsibility, and purpose. Calvin, tell us a little bit more about that.
Um, when you're talking about life and purpose, I feel like you're saying, the conversation needs to be had because sometimes you don't even know who your purpose is. You don't know your purpose because you don't know who you are. And that brings me to Coach Short. When I first met him, I was at Fascinate You. I was having it was a birthday party for my son. When
Okay.
Coach, me and Coach Short, we had a conversation, and the next thing I know, he's adding me to the board of Fascinate You. He added me as a board member.
What?
I never saw myself to be in a room like that, but immediately he wasn't speaking to who I was. He was speaking to who I had the potential of becoming. And sometimes when he was speaking, he was talking about being watered. He was watering something that I didn't even know that was in me. Like even now, I never thought that I would be on a platform or write a book or anything. But he basically was saying, even when he made me a board member, you have a seat at the table. You just got to know your worth. And that brings me to how I got in the military. And I heard God specifically. I put this part in the book. I heard God specifically say, "You need to go to the military, or you're gonna end up dead or in jail." I was 28 years old on the streets of Atlanta. Wasn't really doing nothing good with my life, but I heard God say that. I went to every military base. I passed the ASVAB right in their face, but I was a high school dropout. Didn't have a I had a homeschool diploma, but a lot of them they didn't see that, and the school had lost its accreditations. I went to the Air Force. They said no. Navy said no. Coast Guard says no. Marine said no. Army said no. Um, Army and Air Guard said no. The last door was the National Guard. I went to this door. This guy happened to be a pastor. He was very patient with me. That's the door that God allowed me to go in, and it shifted my whole life. So it was like, even though everybody else didn't take that chance, this guy, he took a chance and he helped water me. And if he would have never watered me, even in that essence, that was a man exchange. He took a chance on me, and he made his chance on me. He said I know the school that you went to, but they lost their accreditations. If you can go, he said, if you had to go back and get your GED, do you think you'll pass? I said, I know I'll pass. So I went and got my GED. He helped me open my first bank account. Look, I'm 28. I never had a bank account. He helped me open my bank account. I mean, he was very patient with me, almost like a father. These are things that your father will help you do. And he helped me do all of these things. And I'm the man I am today because of people like Coach Short, because of the recruiter that took the time out to me. So when you're talking about your purpose, it'll be ones that you don't even expect that will believe in you to go further than ones that are with you. But even if the ones that are with you or that know you, they don't share in your vision, doesn't mean that it's not a vision. It just means that you got to get around like-minded people, and you can't be so stubborn at how it's supposed to look. Even when we're talking about God, you can't even get on how he's supposed to do it, because he's always doing a new thing. You're still gonna arrive at the same destination, but how he take you to get there, you can't be so single-minded on this is how it's gonna be, because I would never think that my life would go the way that it did to arrive at this moment. And the people that help wasn't even people that I thought that I would get the help from. I
You're
hope
giving
I
you're giving me goosebumps, man. I'm being honest right here. Like we said, straight talk and motivation. I heard you say that a lot of your qualified no's turned into a yes.
yes, sir.
And that is one of the key ingredients that when you stop and think about Jesus, people saw him as a rebel without a cause. They thought he was unworthy, and as a matter of fact, a total outcast. And I got excited about that when I saw that, because I felt like I was in a similar situation growing up. I'm from an island that is considered a paradise. Everybody wants to go there and live there, eat there. You know, it's one place you can get some breadfruit and curry chicken and some really good natural wholesome food. Don't cry, guys. We'll head down next year. And I want to take a moment and shout out the team at Executive Airlines in Barbados. Sounds like we're going to be coming your way soon next year, guys. So just hold a pin in that idea and let's go forward. Now, we're going to move on to the next part of this conversation. And the men featured in these pages in this book comes from diverse background, like you just said, what happened to you, and experiences and stages of life. Yes, that's where we are. Yet each of them accepted the challenge to reflecting honestly on their journey and answering questions that many men really take the time to ask themselves. Questions about childhood influences, moments, friendships, relationship, emotional growth, fatherhood, legacy, and what it truly means to become a man. And as you read, you will notice that there is no single blueprint for manhood. No two stories are exactly alike. Some of these men grew up with strong role models, others had to find their own way through uncertainty, and some learned valuable lessons through achievement while others gained wisdom through adversity, mistakes, and setbacks. What connects them all is their willingness to be transparent about the experiences that shaped them. The, you know, crafting this book is a real world storyboard that explodes every single time you read in these pages. And I, let me pause for a minute and have an emotional moment, okay? Because here we are, five men in a room, right? And when I say five, I invoke God.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You follow me? So this blueprint that you all came together, what kind of activities are you going to be involved in the going forward? Let's say we set an understanding for the next 90 days. What would you like to see happen in the next 90 days concerning the book and activities that you may or may not have planned?
Well, personally, I hope that we personally engage in reading the book. I've had access to reading everyone's story. They haven't got their books yet. And I, of course, had the author draft. And I sat down and read it as soon as it came in, because I was like, though I'm affiliated with these brothers in some sort of way, let me see the stories, because we've been grinding for weeks and getting things together and edit and re-edit. And I finished it, and while it wasn't speed reading, but I sat down for at least an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, and read it. And my wife walked in the room, And she said, "What you have?" I showed her the book. I said, "This is a very good book." I said, "These brothers really showed out in sharing their experience in manhood, because I learned just reading the book from them things that when we have engaged personally, it hadn't been a conversation, which is the point, that we talk about what we talk about, and sometimes we don't talk about what we need to." And we both, all of us in this book, were sharing some things that we kind of feel are not talked about amongst men, but need to be talked about in different ways that we can reach people with the way our flow of writing, speaking, and teaching, because all of that was taking place with this whole project.
You said earlier in conversation that this book transforms beyond race, creed, color, nationality, and spiritual origin. And I
Yes.
agree with that because of the consensus of what is happening. And we have one thing in common, like two things. One, we're all spiritual beings in the room. And the other side of that, we are in the Black Mecca of the United States, Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay? And I think that it's time, using this book as one of the tools. This is my input, right? I don't know what you guys are thinking, but when I heard what you did to this man by the name of Apostle Calvin Hollie, all I could see in my head is a T square and a drafting board. You're an architect, Coach Alphonso Short,
Thank you.
and you are on the short list for victory. This is a real talk, okay? I hope that in August, you folks can be a part of the festival that is done in Cobb County here in Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't have all of the details yet, but it's been 5 years now, and this will be the 6th year. And this event took place as a part of my storyboard, which I will share more a bit later. But with what you have in hand and what you're doing, I see the opportunity for workshops, seminars, trade shows, and different things related to the Manxchange program, t-shirts, vendor opportunities, travel, support systems, these types of things. I feel that this book has built into the blueprint model.
Yes, I agree, and that's been part of the business meetings that my wife and I are having amongst each other, and I thank you for confirmation of the direction and the thought processes that I'm in now, and we'll be moving forward with many of those things, and hopefully with the invite that you've given us now, that we can have most of the men be a part of it some kind of way.
Yeah, we need to do this. This needs to become an actionable thing in right now in process, even to the extent of becoming a membership economy, you know? And these are just some notions that I put out because as a practitioner of some of these things, I've seen the value and translated into the effort of success. Now, for example, if I didn't go to the library, I would never have met Mr. Fields. Now, I went to the library when I first landed here in Paulding County, and I love Paulding County. It's one of the most relaxed places you can live. Okay? Okay, Paulding Economic Development. And I like to play sometimes. But the library has always been that go-to place. My son loves it. And when the call came in and I met you and we talked, there was an energy about you at that event for the Juneteenth event that became part of in the same month, June, National Caribbean American Heritage Month applies. All right. And that's now we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of that. And when they served jerk chicken and rice and peas, I said, okay, this is a crossover proceeding now. Come on. Now, Heaven Jones is the one that opened up a few minutes for me to talk about my book. And when I called her and we were talking, she said, yes, that's my name. I said, I can feel it, Josie. Because These are the types of things that I like to see. And as I'm speaking to you, I want for your book to be in Barbados as a starter pack in the library system. And I'm going to be making some phone calls to see if they're willing to do that. I know
That's wonderful.
my book's there, and I have a book of a very dear friend of mine who I'll be introducing you to by the name of Herbert Harris.
Okay.
I don't know if you folks have ever heard of him, but he wrote the 12 Universal Laws of Success.
Okay.
And when he came on my show, it was a while ago. And the one thing that I tell men is that the most important thing we can do is to begin the process of volunteering into our own life, into our own space.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do. And I'll share because you guys are sharing and you're keeping it straight. So I'm going to keep it straight. I didn't have a father growing up. My mom was present, but not really. And then my grandmother really liked me, so she looked after me. And then my aunt got a hold of me when I was going into high school. And the next thing you know, she said, well, Joel, because my grandmother gave me the nickname Joel from the book in the Bible. And I said, why you do that? She goes, go read it yourself and see. So when she passed and I have a new son, 7 years old, I give him the name as a legacy moment
Right.
for her. And she lived to 104. Now, when I started out speaking and looking at what was going on around me, it happened in church. I was maybe what, maybe 15? I didn't like what I saw, so I got real, what they call dread. I said, look, I told my Sunday school teacher, you're kind of boring. And she said, well, if you think you can do better, why don't you teach the class? And I said, bet. So next Sunday, I'm teaching a class. And the next thing you know, I kind of went off on the church. And the lady that, when I got off stage, and the lady sitting in the front row whispered in my ear, and this is a world premiere moment in conversation. She said, young man, keep on doing what you do. And she lived to 112, 10 to 12 years old.
Wow.
See, the island of Barbados is no joke. It's a very powerful location with people who have some tremendous mindset. And you hear about Black Enterprise magazine over the years. The foundation for that was birthed by a Barbadian. And I say that because I'm setting you all up for adventure in the undiscovered country of the Caribbean. Because your wife told me you like food, Mr. Alfonso, Caribbean
Yes,
food.
sir.
And she said Jamaica. And I said, well, Jamaica's ain't got nothing on Bajan, so I'm trying to convert you to becoming a jam bar, Jamaican Bajan.
Okay. Well, we'll be trying Barbados. You best believe that.
But let's continue a minute because this is getting real exciting.
It is.
The title, The Man You Script, reflects a simple but powerful truth. Absolutely. Every man is writing his own script every day. The choices we make, the values we embrace, the people we influence, and the responsibilities we accept all contribute to the story we leave behind. None of us can change yesterday or yesterday's chapter, but every one of us can write a better chapter today. Anybody want to jump in here?
Ooh, 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 put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. Man, this is amazing. I love how we're flowing, how we're being genuine, and it's great. This book is it's a healthy roadmap about masculinity. It's about emotional healing. It's about purpose. Um, it's about accountability, and emotional maturity and living with purpose. Because who would have had thought that my traumatized childhood could be used to help an individual going through the difficult segment of times uh, for for a guy, and you're looking
Mm.
at this guy who's been sexually molested at the age of 5, and in that, it wasn't just men, it was women also. And so in that, that causes the mindset to really get changed from what society says who I am and what I'm about to be and everything. And in that, it took that journey to say, I believe in what the Bible says and practicing the principles of it. And it was like, God, I how do I come back from this? And in that, it calls growth to be about. It calls growth in my relationship with God to come stronger. Because as we look at this, and I'm sharing a little bit more about myself, here it is. At 5 years old, the mind is still being shaped.
Yes.
And as you go through adolescence, and as you continue to go through being a young man, and a young adult, the mind is still growing for us. And that maturity piece is still growing for us. And all I can really say is that in growing up, I started to understand accountability and what that meant. And that emotional maturity that I was talking about. As men, we shut down, we isolate ourselves, and we think that we have to carry things all by ourselves. And we don't have the notion to seek out help. And what the book is talking about is talking about seeking out help and making it normalized instead of, oh, that's something big. No, it's giving us permission to feel
Mm.
in this book. It's redefining masculinity that is healthy, you know, and it's breaking that silence, that cycle of silence that we have done so many times. And it's causing us to say, hey, emotionally, I ain't doing so hot. And in that, it causes a change in mindset to where we say, I acknowledge how I feel. Now, what do I do with this? Do I go and start using drugs? Do I start womanizing? Do I start what is my response to these emotions that I have? And we're learning that, hey, it's okay to talk about these emotions in a safe environment. When I say safe, we're not going to judge you. We're going to help guide, but it's not about judging you. It's about being open enough to say, I ain't doing so hot. This how I think. This how I feel. And in doing so, we're able to allow people to speak into our lives because we've got an environment that's open enough to say, hey, I hear you. You're not alone in your feelings that you're going through and in the thoughts. But as men, we don't do that. And we wonder why women are living longer than us because they got a skill, they got an ability there, and we need to update our software, you know. And in doing so, I believe we'll be healthy. It's a balance. You really do have to learn how to balance this thing. And for this book, it's showing you, it's giving you practical things that you can do that helps that person to grow as a person that has dreams, that has goals, that has discipline. And this book does that. And each one of us, we share our personal experience with this, and we grow and we become better. And the last thing, we give it out to people. We don't hold it in and be, you know, somewhat like they say selfish.
Right.
No, we come out and we say, hey, I'm here for you. The other person, hey, I'm here for you this away. Another person, I'm here for you this away. And as we do that, it opens up that creativity that's in a man, and it causes that man to grow and produce because they want to, not because they have to.
You know, the one thing I learned about evil is that it loves dark places and secrets.
Yes.
And what you just said about opening up and sharing, and this is becoming a really good conversation for people to truly watch this show, because that is vindication for you. See, by speaking it into existence, you're releasing it. So let's qualify the action and let it go.
Yes.
Because you're unqualified to hold on to something that is not your fault. You hear what I'm saying? You are unqualified. And I knew that I was unqualified, for example, to accept the fact that they was telling me when I was growing up that I'm a dummy and I would be nothing. And these are words that came out of my mom's own mouth because of her holding on to the hate she had for my father.
Mhm.
And I speak this now because I don't want to defame anyone, any place, at any time for anything. But if we don't speak and study to show ourselves approved, how can we inherit our space in the kingdom of heaven in a godly way for us individually?
Yes.
Like the book said, the scripting is a blueprint. I come from an island, and that's turquoise water, which is blue, and blue is my favorite color. I even printed my first set of books myself and bound them myself. So I don't just talk about book publishing and authoring and distribution. I live that life. I started it out for me because that was my one whole and total goal. But this whole thing about sex and sexuality and conversation needs to be revisited in a way to explain bad behavior as a legacy conversation because we have poor behavior from the generationally speaking, poor behavior. And if you were not responsible for something, how can you hold on to it and claim it as your own? One of the quotes that I put in my book was from my mom. Never let confusion steal your knowledge. Never let confusion. And as I look around here, and I always look at myself in America as a qualified guest. I wasn't born here, so when I came here and I left Barbados, I left with one thing that I was asking a question. And that question was, why are they saying in God we trust? What do they know that we don't know?
Yeah.
And when I tell people that, it shocks them. Now, what are you as an 18-year-old kid going to be asking God those kind of things and getting on a plane and flying up American Airlines? And as I saw the plane descend, I said, man, I'm never going to be able to drive on those roads because I've never seen traffic like that, conduits and everything. But the one thing that I will say in terms of the question that you just answered, that you weren't asked, but I feel that you felt safe in this conversation to share that. And I want that to be heard so that a lot of young men who are out here blaming themselves for what may have transpired in that essence part of life, for them to hear you say this and know that it's going to be okay anyway.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the questions that you have in the scripting is about boyhood memories and foundational influences. You're asking people to describe your childhood. Be specific about your household, demographics, and neighborhood, which led to security or its lack. That's number one. And now, growing up in Barbados, a lot of people don't know, and I'm referencing Barbados on purpose for many reasons. The most important thing is that America and the world got a taste of the King James Version of the Bible. Barbados got a heavy-duty taste of the slave Bible. Yes, there is a slave Bible. The breaking of a man, how to break you down, mess you up, mash you up. And Calvin, you can speak to this because in the military, they break you down to shape you, don't they?
Yes, sir. When you get there, they basically whoever you thought you was, they need to get rid of that because they need you to be a functioning soldier. So
And
when you get there, your first few days you're being broke down, and then they're putting in kill, kill, kill because your training eventually is going to lead you to the battlefield. So even when I was training, they had us in the classroom and they told us, look to the guy to your left and look to the guy to your right. They was like, within a few weeks, some of y'all not gonna make it. And when they said that, I thought that that was harsh. But what it was is, like you said, this conversation is no, they was just giving you the raw and real. If you're not really paying attention, if you're not taking this in, we're not training you for no reason. Usually, a lot of us, as soon as we left basic, we did our AIT, we was being called to go to war. And a lot of those people, if you're not paying attention and you're missing it, you're gonna go down range and the person to your left and your right, their life depends on the seriousness of how and how effective you can be. And that's all that they was saying. But as a kid, like Wendell was saying, your mind is not developed. So when I went to basic, I was in there with a bunch of people, kids in high school. Like I said, I was 28 when I heard God. He told me, if you don't take this route, you don't have another route. So I'm serious to what I'm paying attention to. But I had a lot of kids like they in high school, they might be in the 11th or the 12th grade. They'll do their basic, then they go to school. Then the next year, next summer, they come back and do their AIT. So it's all fun and games to them. Me, I had no other choice, so I'm taking everything in. I'm soaking it in, and but he did say that. He said, "Look to your left and to your right," and that's the case. When you go down range, you don't know if you're gonna come back home. You are in a war. And this was in 2000. I went in 2008. I finished basic in AIT. In 2009, I was being called to go overseas. In 2010, I was in Afghanistan. That's just how quick it happened. I was in Afghanistan for the majority of 2010. I left in January and I came back maybe November of 2010. And a lot of people lost their life when I was over there. So when he was saying, although it was harsh to the young mind, the revelation of what he was saying, it wasn't left on me because I understood just from coming from the streets. You don't have to go to a war zone to see war.
oh, you know,
You
and this
can.
was, and I'm glad that I'm loving you, brother. Calvin, you rock. Okay. Let me say this to you, coming back to the book. Describe your childhood and be specific about your household demographics and neighborhood, which led to security or its lack. Powerful statement, but in the unseen and what needs to be seen is that you're pre-qualifying your knowledge base as you move forward through life. Once you know where you come from, you know where you're going. Once you identify who you are, not what you do in someone's line item as a descriptive form of who you are. And that's why in my workshop, the first question I ask people to do is to take a second look at who they are and answer a very simple question. And they're like, Mr. Padmore, what is it? And I'll say, well, tell me who you are. That's my first question. Who are you? And the room gets silent every time. One person said to me, I don't want to make you think that I'm stupid or anything, but Mr. Padmore, I really don't know who the hell I am because no one has ever really asked me the question the way you are asking me. See, I had to ask myself a question, what qualifies me to be who I am? My procreative rights as a human being does that. Procreative rights. And if men get to the point of understanding that's their value, the hate, the greed, the envy, the anxiety, and the professional stupidity that we occupy every day will subside slowly. I really believe that because it worked for me. I mean, growing up in those mean streets of Barbados, where you could go pick breadfruit from people's tree, mangoes, apples. That was a season that no one really bothered you until people got the notion that you're stealing from me.
Mm.
And then they began to put charred bottles on there so that when you jump down at the mango tree, you cut your foot or something else. The neighborhood, the demographic, everything started changing. Behavior started changing.
Yeah.
People stopped being keepers of their neighbor. We didn't need
Yes.
security alarms back then. Your neighbor would know who's going and coming out of your house and what time and what you look like. There were the radar detectors in your community. But once people folded in that demographic and stopped talking to each other, looking at each other, and respecting each other, life changed.
Yes.
No more heroes in your family, no more books, no more movies and theaters and TV tell you what's coming, but they don't tell you that officially, right? Who do you admire now? That's the second question. Do you have people that you can look on and admire? No. In some cases. Before I met Mr. Field, I didn't know if I should admire him, but during the conversation and listening to him, I began to admire him. Powerhouse. And then he had the audacity.
Audacity.
That's right. The audacity, because it's also a recording program, by the way. So if you're looking for something for free and you want to record your storyboard, grab Audacity. No, they're not paying me to advertise them. But again, volunteering into your own life and gathering information. The audacity of hope to refer Mr. Short to me through conversation is an edification that says, I trust and believe in this man I met. There was no accusatory statement in him. And I love exploring biblical conversations, historic profiles. You know, Barbados was called Little England. It was one of the main properties of the British Empire back then. And there's a lot of conversations inside of that. But the men in this world need to become pilots of their own destiny again. They must rise beyond the emotional displeasures and manage the equity that's within them.
True.
So, adolescence and rites of passage is what you were talking about a little bit. And inside of you being 28 and going in there, that's kind of an adolescence, because in one sense, if you say that the average lifespan is 70 years old, by the time you're 30, you're halfway home, right?
Yeah.
So between 7, 14, and 21, you've got to look at it very closely. So the blueprint that I created for my kids is the one that I pass on to Joel. First 7 years, make sure that he gets his mental attitude right. I make sure that the moment that he was born, I was in the room to see his incoming flight to the world. I think men need to do more of that. If you're going to make love to a woman and have sex, go watch the birth of the child. Don't run away. Don't let the doctor tell you don't come into that room. You go and look and see what you have applied, what it looks like. You need to see your work of art. You need to live inside of that artistic framework. That's being a man. Exchange. The experiential journey within you birth the children that you are there to protect.
Mm-hmm.
You will not let anyone hurt them. You stand guard as a vanguard for their future. You're not going to go and cause harm to them in any way, shape, or form when you're standing in parenthood. Now, remember earlier on in the conversation, I said there will always be an accusatory statement. Because when you join forces with a woman, there's men and women, and if you don't, there are two different products in the room now. Always, at all times. But courtesy, professionalism, respect, powered but the understanding of love keeps that moving with powerful communication. I've fallen down in marriages a couple of times, and I know what transpired. I knew when it was coming at me. I looked at it, I tried to manage it, it didn't quite work out. I had to release the aggression because most men don't want to let go. And next thing you know, you hear a crime is committed, murder, death, kill, MEK.
That's true.
I ain't got no time for that. That's a bad boy. Then there are more explorations in terms of relationship building inside the construct because we have to re-engage and inherit our original way of form as men. And that is a very difficult task to take on because the support system, the legacy tradition that we wanted to have is not in the room very often.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Alfonso and the crew, you are now my caravan factor inside the Men Exchange. Because my little group that I created is called Men in Motion. You get up, put on your tuxedo, and go out and claim your dream, your vision, manage your goals. Equity financing is what we all need. If you're going to do a friend a favor, you do it. This is what equity exchange looks like. And your wife showed up on your behalf and explained she made a case for you, a very powerful case. And I said, lady, I'm going to explain to you what Bajan Bar the Bucks look like another time. But bring him on. I'm going to make room for him. You know why?
Yes.
Because there's an event coming up in Jonesboro on the 25th. And we're going to be a part of that, hopefully. All right.
Okay.
And when that happens, your wife is going to be there. But this program is going to precede her to showcase what the Man Exchange is all about and where we go from there. Any final questions before we close out? Or comments, rather?
Well, in comment first, I just like again, thank you and appreciate you making a space for us to share today. And you were speaking of how evil likes to sneak in on us, and it's about good and evil, whether we want it to be or not. Some years ago, I wrote a poem, a message, and I called it "In the Black." And I have the picture of the thinker. I have it on a T-shirt that I wear from time to time, and the thinker is sitting on it in the black. I thought I just wanted to get it out there, and it goes: every change in man must come through internal understanding and acceptance of himself. Man is the only creature with the ability to reshape and remold himself by altering his attitude. You spoke of your son's attitude. You are where you are and what you are because of the dominating thoughts that occupy your mind.
Yes.
This is what Man Exchange is about. That we find something to occupy our mind that's conducive, not only for ourselves, our communities, but for society overall. My platform, Man Exchange, sir, is that Man Exchange is a community, a safe community to be informed, to be heard, to be healed, to be honest, to be humble, to be whole, and to be transformed.
Awesome.
Those are my words, and I like for my brothers to share something, a nugget or two, as we close out on your program.
Yeah.
If I can share something, I was at a family reunion on Saturday, 4th of July. And that while I was there, I was doing a lot of promoting of the book because I had a lot of people in the same room. But most of the people that was there were my nephews. And they was like, what is the book about? And I was telling them basically It's called a Manxchange, and I was like, basically, you are the manuscript, like a manuscript. Oh yeah, I like that. And they was like, what is it? What does that involve? I was like, I don't want to give too much because I want you to buy the book, but it's letting you know that I said one part on there asked you what's the best advice you ever got, what's the worst advice you ever got, and this part sunk into me because all of my nephews said the same thing. We've gotten a lot of bad advice. This basically was
Mm.
like they basically agreed that they are where they are because of the advice that they got, and they acknowledge that they have made a lot of bad choices. And one of the reasons is sometimes you get advice from wounded people. They're not healed themselves. So you're getting a lot of bad advice from wounded people. And they was like, I want the book. It almost like they looked at this like, I can use that. Because if I would have had this earlier on, maybe I would have went a different way. So I just wanted to share that they acknowledge that they do need help. Even and these are my nephews. Most of them were all of them were in their 20s. I'm 46. These are all my brothers and sister kids. They're all in their 20s, like I'd say between 25 to like 28, and they all agreed the same thing. I need that book. I could use some more advice because maybe they're hanging around friends or they're looking at the wrong role models and it's causing them to go the long way. So if I would have some advice that'll help me get back on the right track, they was like, I'm all for it. So I only bought 20 books, and at the family reunion I think I sold like 13 of them
All
within
right.
within just that short time.
Okay. I see. Mr. Fields, your
Oh man.
commentary.
Well, I'll say it this way. A man's greatest strength is not hiding his wounds, but allowing God, community, and intentional growth to transform those wounds into wisdom, purpose, and a legacy that helps others heal. For men who are struggling with identity, shame, emotional disconnection, trauma, addiction, fatherhood, relationships, or purpose, this story offers both a mirror and a map. It helps us to see themselves honestly while showing a practical path towards becoming emotionally healthy, spiritually grounded, and purpose driven men who leave a lasting legacy. That's what this book is about. And us 8 men came together and we making big things happen for the next generation to come about. And that's my
Amen.
offer.
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. This has been a delightful opportunity to speak with you and to build. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Right? The best is yet to come in this moment. And I thank you for coming on the show. And I hope that we continue do more of these conversations because it's very exciting, very opening. And perhaps we maybe do a hybrid conference, you know, and stream it live as a pay-per-view event or something,
Okay.
and build momentum out of what we just created.
Yes,
Because
sir.
discovery is a very special thing, and I heard a lot of discovery in this conversation. So we want to thank your publicist and we want to thank everyone involved, Mr. Fields, for your endeavor, right? All right. You're listening to Straight Talk and Motivation. Join us next week for more adventure in the undiscovered country. And we will be telling you who our guests are. Stay tuned to cardvoiceradio.org for more news, information, and updates. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Voice Radio. Believe it.